Testing. Claude, let's run it. Claude, let's run a test. Claude, let's run a test. Can you please speak for a little while to see if Zoom is picking up your voice when you speak? No, it's not showing up. It's not showing up, and it's just not. It's not picking up your voice on the closed caption. So it means your voice is not being picked up and recorded when you what to everybody else who's on the Zoom call when I asked you to speak, which is again we talked about this earlier. I just don't know how to fix it now because I don't really have time to fix it. Um, but I wish we could, but we just can't. So I mean, I've been messing around with the settings, and it's just not. It's just not. Let me see. Let me see one more thing. If I go to, well, it's 11 o'clock, so I have to worry about it later. Okay, so hi everybody. So let me stop share and go to the share screen. Back to the oh, what did I do? I gotta go back to the cyber campus. And so there's cyber campus here, and then we go back to Zoom like this, and then we share here, share, and your smart attendance number is, so it's week 9, right? So we're week 9, so we're still week 9. So we go to add and smart attendance, and your smart attendance number is 778, 778. So stop share and go to chat and put in 778 here, 778 attendance number. Okay, and close that. Go back to share screen. So maybe I was a little bit too fast there. So you see 778 is your number there. So 778, there you go. Okay, so we have a debate today, and we want to give everybody a chance to speak. And so let me go back to my files here and open up my lesson plan in case there's something that I wanted to show you, but I forgot, and so I don't want to forget. So I'm going to show it to you now. So we go here, stop share, go back to share here, so you can see what I'm doing. Here are my files. And so we go here to week 9 lesson plan, and so we have it here, and open it up, and come on, open up, let's go, and wait for this. Okay, so you can see the lesson plan. And on the debate topic, Japan should pay additional compensation to Korea for its policies and practices. And okay, so what we can do now is we can go straight to the debate. And of course, also, your midterms are due by tomorrow morning so that I can put a grade on them. So just note that point. And let's go ahead then and get organized in terms of the debate. So we stop share, and let me go share this screen. Go back here to vote, and we go to vote. Scroll down here, and you can see debate topic, pro and con on the following. So it says here, you can see, so please vote if you haven't voted so we can get organized here. So who is strongly pro? Who is con? Please vote on the debate topic, and this is identified. And so please vote. Well, the problem, see, Claude is talking to me now, students. So you don't hear it because it's not showing up on Zoom. You're hearing because I'm speaking. So Claude is speaking that up, but you're not picking up um, what he's saying. So he's asking what I'm doing, and so I'm going to turn him off, and so that or maybe I'll just keep it on, but I just I'm going to ask, yeah. So I just turned off the voice because you can't hear it. So back to the lesson plan. I mean, not the lesson plan, the vote here, and so we go back to the um, let me see here. So I have to go back here and lesson plan. So here, so now we go to, okay, share the screen. Like this. What did I do? Did I close it? No, I hope not. So we'll go to share. And looking for the, what happened to it? Just a second here. This is what I want. So go here. Okay, here, share. Okay, so there you can see the vote. Now, what I can do, we have 9 pro and 2 con. So, and you can see the results here at the bottom. And so we've got a lot of pro people. And so that means strongly pro, one, let's say we like 3 groups out of pro and 1 con. And so what I can do now is stop the share first and then go to make the breakout rooms and create, let's create uh, 1, 2,
7.
create and assign automatically, create. I'll tell you what, okay, I'll do it like this. Let participants choose. So create the room. Now I rename them strongly pro. Yes. And then rename pro 1. Yes. Pro 2. Yes. Pro 3.
Huh?
Like this. And con.
Wait.
Now, what I would like you to do is join one of these groups. Please join one of these groups. Okay. Join one of the groups. If you're strongly pro, join the strongly pro group. If you're pro, join one of the 3 pro groups. And if you're con, join the con group. And we'll even out the pro groups so that they got even number.
How can we join the group, sir? Because I have nothing showing on my computer.
Are you Maya?
No, I'm Julia.
Julia. Okay, so
Yes.
I'll sign you. Are you pro or
I'm
con?
con.
Okay, so I'll sign you to con. There, I've signed you to con. And so got lots of people in pro 1. Let me move you to pro 2. And okay, so what about pro 3? We need to get people in pro 3. So let me assign you to Pro 3, you to Pro 3 as well. Move to Pro 3. Okay. So, and somebody's strongly con. Who's strongly con? I know somebody was strongly con. Strongly pro, sorry. Who was strongly pro? So I go back to the, and that's Chu Ujin. Cho Ujin. Where's Cho Ujin? So Cho Ujin,
Sir,
yeah.
I don't know how to join the group.
Who are you?
I'm Yongseung Kim.
Okay, so are you con or pro?
I'm in con.
Okay, so I'll assign you to con. There you go.
Thank you.
So join the group. Elliot, are you pro or con? I'm going to move Zhuting to Pro 2. Okay, so Elliot and Shi Jinru, which group? What are you? Shi Jinru, and I don't see Shi Jinru here. Okay, so those are your groups. Shi Jinru, are you pro or con? And Shi Jinru, I'm going to assign you to somebody. I'm going to assign you to strongly pro. Okay, so okay, so let me okay, now prepare your opening statements and oh, sorry. So okay, you all been assigned to various groups, and so prepare your opening statements. And I think you're pretty much equal to equal groups here, and and prepare your opening statements. And so who's going to speak first for each group? So we've got two people in strongly pro. So Chi Jinru is heads. I'll tell you what. Okay, Chi Jinru's heads. And it is heads. So Shi Jinru is going to speak first for strongly pro. For pro, Iris is heads. And it is tails. That means Yi Jungwoo is heads, and it is heads. So for pro, Yi Jungwoo is going to speak first for pro 1. For pro 2, first half of the group is heads, and it's heads. Elliot, you're heads, and it is Elliot. You're going to speak first for pro 2. For pro, Ansubin is heads, it's tails. So for pro 3, it is Mr. Nam is going to speak first for pro 3. And for Han, Enzo is heads, and it is tails. Julia, it's heads, and it is tails. So that is Young Sung, Kim Young Sung is going to speak first for Khan. Okay. So what is my position? So I go back to share and go back to the vote here, and I share the screen, and I am get this out of the way here. And so heads, I'm 1, 2, or 3. Tails, I'm con or strongly con. And so and it is heads. Heads, I'm strongly pro, and it is tails. Heads, I'm pro, and it is tails. So I am neutral. I can't decide. I just can't decide. I'm neutral. I'm neutral on the debate topic. On the debate topic, and the debate topic is once again on the following: Japan should pay additional compensation to Korea for its policies and practices during its occupation of Korea. So why am I neutral? I'm neutral. So I'm writing down why I'm neutral. If Seoul declares, I am neutral because it is up to the governments of South Korea and Japan whether this issue is one of public international law. If Seoul declares that it is an issue of Japan's state responsibility, whether aggravated or ordinary, then it is, regardless of whether or ordinary state responsibility, then it is an issue. Then it is an issue of public international law. It may remain unresolved for as long as one side or the other, or both, one side or the other side, or both, declare it to be unresolved. So the incentives are, so the question then becomes, what are the diplomatic bargaining leverage? Are the incentives, what are the diplomatic incentives? Diplomatic bargaining leverage incentives that states have, that Seoul and Tokyo have, to persuade the other that the issue is resolved. Of course, these incentives, these diplomatic bargaining incentives, or bargaining leverage incentives, depend upon many factors, including the broader international context that may motivate the urgency of their cooperation. Okay, so did you hear what I was saying? Okay, so cooperation. So it's again basically repeating the notes that I sent you, right? I am neutral because it is up to the governments of South Korea and Japan whether this issue is one of public international law. There's a difference between public international law and private international law. Private international law, for example, is the law that courts use in different countries, for example, to determine whether or not if I'm living here in Korea, and determine whether or not I am divorced or not in Korea from my American wife, if I have an American wife and I want to be divorced from her, then it's up to the South Korean court to look at American law to determine whether or not, according to American law, I am therefore divorced here in Korea, and therefore I am subject to Korean laws regarding a person who is divorced or married, for example. So in other words, it doesn't involve the governments of the executive governments of the United States or Republic of Korea. It doesn't involve the executive branches of those two states. That's private international law, right? When courts have to decide, for example, if I come to Korea and I've adopted a child, I have a child with me, and I claim that the child is my adopted child, my adopted son or daughter, then Korea would then have to look at American law to determine inside the United States, determine whether or not I've indeed adopted that child according to U.S. law, to determine if it's adopted here in South Korea as well. That South Korea recognizes I have an adopted child. That's private international law. Public international law is law between states, not between private individuals. Like, let's say somebody's disputing whether or not I have that adopted child here in Korea that's really my child. Public international law is law between states. So if South Korea declares that this issue is a dispute issue with Japan and is attempting to invoke Japan's state responsibility to compensate the enslaved women in the Japanese Empire that were Korean, then it is an issue of public international law by definition, even if Japan claims it's not an issue. If Korea says it is an issue, it's an issue. All right. If Seoul declares that it is an issue of Japan's state responsibility, doesn't matter whether it's aggravated state responsibility or ordinary responsibility, then it is an issue of public international law. So if Seoul attempts to invoke South Korea's responsibility, claiming that South Korea has violated its international legal that Japan has violated its international legal obligations to Korea and wants reparations, compensation, or whatever, it may remain. The issue may remain unresolved as long as one side, the other, or both declare it to be unresolved. So the question then becomes, what are the diplomatic bargaining leverage incentives that Seoul and Tokyo have to persuade the other that the issue is resolved over comfort women, right? Of course, these diplomatic bargaining leverage incentives depend upon many factors, including the broader national context that may motivate the urgency of their cooperation. So that was highlighted in my comments to you on your paragraphs. You can imagine a scenario whereby Korea reunites, and they both see Japan and Korea see a terrible threat from China, for example. And then Japan and Korea may want to put this issue aside and resolve it once and for all, so they can cooperate in dealing together with the perceived Chinese threat, for example. That's an imagined scenario. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be resolved because it's a sensitive issue, and politicians, are going to respond to sensitive issues in South Korea and also in Japan, because they're always thinking about public opinion and the next elections. And so it's hard for me to imagine that the South Korean politician is not going to use this issue to win votes in elections. And it's hard for me to also imagine a Japanese politician is not going to be seriously constrained in their ability to respond to this, because they're also concerned about elections inside Japan. And I pointed out in my comments to you how, you did have the West Germans have accepted responsibility for the crimes of Nazism, and they've accepted state responsibility for that, and they've been compensating and providing reparations for those crimes, that they've decided to do that through the state of Israel, for example, to compensate the state of Israel. But that was a decision by Berlin, and Berlin had it was a decision by Bonn before West Germany reunited with East Germany. The West Germans went out of their way to accept responsibility for this, and they had lots of incentives and reasons for doing that. The fact they were occupied and divided during the Cold War, that there were thousands of foreign troops on West German and East German soil, prepared to fight World War III on German territory, including use of nuclear weapons. There were lots of reasons why Bonn and later Berlin accepted responsibility, that they had responsibility to compensate Israel for the crimes of the Nazis, even though this happened before the United Nations Charter was ratified, and before various human rights treaties after 1945 were ratified, including the Genocide Treaty, right? But that was a decision that Germany made because it was in its perceived self-interest to do that. Okay, so let's hear your statements. So who's going to speak first? So pro, it's heads, tails, it's con, and it is heads. So heads, it's strongly pro. and it is heads. So Shi Junri, are you ready to make your statement? Shi Junri, going once. Shi Junri, going twice. If not, Cho Jin, are you ready to make your statement? Cho Jin, for strongly pro. Cho Jin?
Do you hear that, Professor?
Yes, are you Cho Jin?
Yeah.
Okay,
the-
go ahead and make your strongly pro statement.
Yeah. I think I argument that Japan's colonization of Korea is inherently void and illegal under international law, as the relevant treaties were proceeded through the Japan military and without the empire's necessary ratification. By undermining the sovereignty is pledged to protecting the 1904 protocol. Japan fundamentally violated the principle of the good faith in international relations. And so the 1965 basic relation treaty confirms that all previous treaties were already void, supporting the legal conclusion that the colonial occupation lacked any legitimate base. Under the UN Charter, and the ILC draft articles on state responsibility, Japan remains legal and obligated to provide reparation for the inhumane acts committed during its illegal occupation. Since the fund provided in 1965 were labeled as independence congratulation money and cannot be recognized as valid legal compensation or the since apologized for wrongful acts. To uphold the international legal value of human rights and sovereignty, we must reject realist justification based on power and firmly establish the legal of the colonial rule. That's my opinion.
Okay, and of course, I remember these comments, these statements from your paragraphs. So then who's going to speak next? So Khan, yes, Kim Yong-sung, can you make your Khan statement?
Yes, sir. Japan does not need to make any more compensation to Korea with regard to the demands made for additional financial compensations from Japan owing to its colonial rule. According to traditional international law, the ordinary state's responsibility is bilateral in nature. Therefore, involved states would have to negotiate and decide on the form of reparation. Furthermore, the 1965 Treaty on Basic Relations has provided an agreement between both states regarding their economic and property claims. Consequently, the additional financial compensation would violate the agreed bilateral treaty between them. So, thus, instead of asking for more financial compensation, we should emphasize be placed on making political and moral satisfaction through the existing treaties concerning financial reparation while being in conformity with the legal framework and moral redress. Thank you.
Okay, and let's see. So that means next is, can we, let's see, who's going to speak next for pro? So, or con? So, no, for pro. So, heads, it's pro one, and it is heads. So pro one, and that is, who is that? Iris? Who's speaking first for pro one?
It's me?
Yes, I think yes, you're pro one. Iris?
Okay. So, I agree with this statement. Chapter 12 explains that a violation of international law creates an obligation for the responsible state to stop the act and provide full reparation, including compensation when restitution is not sufficient, and apply to the Japanese occupation of Korea if all damages, material, human, or economic, were not fully repaired, as additional compensation is justified.
Okay, and so that leaves Enzo as heads, and it is Enzo heads. Make your con statement, please.
In the
Enzo.
beginning of the 20th century, Korea had suffered from crime against humanity by the Japanese imperial occupation. Japan has unofficially, through private donation, paid some compensation to the Korean families. However, some issues still cause scandal in both societies. Despite these tensions, the Republic of Korea has more advantages of accepting the current situation with Japan in regards of the current geopolitical situation of the region. Firstly, in the geopolitical context, Japan and South Korea have strong interests to cooperate as allies even with the tensions against the growing hegemon that is China. The acceptance of the compensation and the stepping down of the demands from Korea will normalize its relation between the two countries. This sets a precedent to initial dialogue and opens up the way for a full reconciliation between the countries, making the collaboration even between them easier. Japan has done international wrongful acts during its occupation of Korea. However, they need to put aside the differences and ally against China if they do not want to be crushed.
Okay, so heads, it's pro two. And this tail for pro three. I think that was Mr. Nam. Sung Pyo, are you ready to make your pro statement?
Yeah. I'd like to claim that the 1965 treaty cannot extinguish individual claims because a state acting only as a diplomatic agent lacks the authority to trade away the inherent right of victims for political expediency. So, since the treaty framed the reparations as economic cooperation, it failed to address the illegality of the occupation, leaving the victims' substantive rights intact. Furthermore, because forced labor or Japanese military sexual slavery are a violation of US coins, this interstate agreement cannot override the fundamental dignity of individuals. Therefore, Japan's legal responsibility to provide a sincere apology and direct compensation remains an ongoing obligation. That's all.
Okay, and so that leaves for Khan, Julia. Go ahead, Julia.
Yes.
Julia?
Yes. I'm searching for my text. The Japanese occupation of Korea caused immense suffering, but the 1965 Treaty on Basic Relations legally settled compensation. Japan provided $300 million in grants and $2 million in loans, and under international law, treaties must be respected. Reopening the case would undermine the treaty and the relations of Japan and South Korea relations and risk renewed diplomatic tensions. So the focus should be on strengthening cooperation through economic deals and alliance due to the geopolitical tensions in the region with China and also with the war going on in Iran. If compensation should be pursued, it should be pursued individually and not as a state. So to preserve the stability of the relations between Japan and South Korea, while it also would acknowledge the personal grievance of the Koreans that want to pursue the compensation.
Okay. And so that leaves Iris spoke. Oh, okay, from group two. Who did we select to speak for pro two? Pro two. Who is speaking for pro two? Who do we select?
Oh yeah, it was me. It was me.
Okay, go ahead, Elliot.
Okay, I'm going. So, good morning. I support the idea that Japan should provide additional compensation to Korea for its policies and practices during the occupation. While formal agreements have been signed in the past, many victims and their families continue to feel that their suffering has not been fully acknowledged or fairly compensated. Legal closure does not always mean that justice has truly been achieved, especially when individuals directly affected still seek recognition. This issue is not only about financial compensation, it's also about moral responsibility. Acknowledging historical wrongdoing is a meaningful way, in a meaningful way, is essential for healing. Without this, unresolved grievances can continue to affect relations between countries and societies. In addition, many of the victims are aging, and time is a critical factor. Providing additional compensation now will be a concrete way to respond to their long-standing demands and show their respect for their experiences. Sir, I think we can't hear you. Maybe your microphone is off.
Me too. I cannot hear. I cannot hear Professor voice.
Oh, I think there might be a problem right now.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I won't mess around with this anymore. I'm trying to, figure this out because I can't figure it out unless I'm working with people. So I thought maybe I'll try to figure it out here. Okay, so back to what we were doing here. So that means we've all the cons have spoken. So let's hear the other pro statements. So let's see here. Heads, it's pro one, and it is heads. And so we had Iris speak. So did Yi Jung-woo speak? Heads, it's Yi Jung-woo. And it is tails. So Maya, why are you pro, Maya? Maya? Hello, Maya.
Yes, okay. So after Japan's occupation of Korea, many people suffered from forced labor and other abuses. The 1965 treaty between Japan and South Korea aimed to normalize relations and included financial support, but much of it went to economic development rather than directly to the victims, leaving many feeling their suffering was not fully addressed. While treaties should be respected, the agreement did not fully cover individual claims or all harms. Under international law, if damage is not completely repaired, the duty to compensate can remain. Addressing these unresolved issues today can reduce long-term tension and build stronger, more honest cooperation.
Okay, good. And so heads, it's pro two, and it is tails. So Ansubin is heads, and it is tails. So Pak Ji-young, have you spoken yet, Pak Ji-young?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you spoke already.
No.
Okay, go ahead. Make your pro statement.
Japan focused solely on economic cooperation and compensation in 1965 and did not properly compensate for the illegality of colonial rule or forced mobilization. There is also limitation in that on agreements under the military regime, did not reflect the direct intentions of the victims. Japan is responsible for illegal activities committed by Japan's military and organization during its colonial rule, even if the Japanese government claims that it was a criminal judgment at the time. It is the state's responsibility under international law, in accordance with the international human rights norms, that the healing of crimes against humanity committed by individuals should be given priority. The Japanese government should proactively make compensations. In the end, Japan's sincerely apology and responsible attitude could break this bond. That's about it.
Okay. And so let's see here. So Pro 2, Sabine is heads. And it is heads, Sabine, Pro 2.
Okay. Although the Japan provided the 500 million under the 1965 claim agreement, it was not the compensation for a colonial rule, but a settlement of the financial and civil claims based on the Article of San Francisco Peace Treaty. International law addressed only the interstate statement, not the individual claims for damages. The South Korea Supreme Court in 2018 confirmed that the victims' claims sustained for the unlawful colonial rule and the crimes against the humanity thus falling outside the agreement. Moreover, the International Law Commission principle of full reputation and reparation and the cases like the foundation, remembrance, responsibility, and future show that the individual compensation persists beyond the stage agreement. Therefore, as the violations of the just caution, the Japan obligation for the additional reparation remains legally valid, even if its implementation is constrained by the political realities.
Okay. And so heads, it's Pro 1. And it is tails. Heads, it's Pro 2. And it is heads. So Juting is heads. And it is tails. So Han Kyung-chu, did you speak? Han Kyung-chu?
No, I didn't.
Go ahead.
During Japanese colonial rule over Korea, severe human rights abuses and crimes against humanity occurred. This occupation can be considered an internationally wrongful act under international law. Therefore, Japan bears responsibility for these actions. Although Japan provided compensation under the 1965 Treaty on Basic Relations, further compensation is still necessary. Many victims of forced labor are still alive, yet actual financial compensation has been delayed. In 2023, a small number of victims received limited compensation, but many others remained unpaid. Courts awarded damages to additional victims, but payments have not been enforced due to legal and institutional limitations. This highlights the need for an effective system to ensure compensation is delivered. Beyond financial compensation, acknowledging historical truth and offering sincere apologies are essential. However, continued historical distortion by Japanese politicians suggests that full acknowledgement has not yet been achieved.
Okay. And heads, it's Pro 1. And it is heads. So Lee Jung-woo, have you spoken? Lee Jung-woo. No.
Oh,
Have you?
I
Have you
didn't
spoken?
speak.
Okay, go ahead.
I think Japan needs additional compensation from Korea. The amount paid at the time of the basic treaty relations between Republic of Korea and Japan was to provide funds in purpose of economic cooperation. There was no official apology or compensation to the individual, even if Japan claimed that it was compensation for the oblige during Japanese colonial era, not economic cooperation. There is no statute of limitations for crimes against human rights violation and forced labor under colonial rule. The UN Human Rights Council also recommended Japan's sincere apology and compensation for matters prohibited by international law. More positive direction is going to make an official apology and compensation for the colonial rule for the sake of cooperation and coexistence between the two countries. The
Okay.
democratic okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Two democratic countries have a great influence on the will of the people and the psychological factor of the people in international political, economic, and military competition and confrontation between the two countries. Thank you.
Okay, and Zhuting is heads, and Ansubin is tails. And Ansubin, your pro statement, please.
Okay. Compensation in a way that victims of forced mobilization disagree with is contrary to the victim-centered approach emphasized in international human rights standards. This can be regarded as a violation of international law because direct compensation for victims of human rights violation is denied. Correcting violation of the 1965 Basic Rules on Fundamental Human Rights is legally necessary. The war reparation issue is more than just a financial issue. It is a problem related to the restoration of the victim's human dignity through an apology for the fact of human rights violations. And as a Korean, I strongly agree with this topic.
Okay, and you know who's left? Zhuting. Zhuting, please
네.
make your pro statement, please.
Okay. The international community attributes the action of any state aggressors to the states. So Japan should compensate South Korea. If Japan fails to responsibility to what it had done in the past, it is misgrading justice. The violence and the autonomy of international law will also be affected. The country's actions also reflected its image. And if Japan were to compensate South Korea, it would receive a positive responses. Okay.
Okay, and of course, so in terms of what to conclude for today, the distinction between private international law, which is the application of another country's law inside the court system of a different country, like for example, to determine whether or not I have the right to claim that my child is adopted by a Korean judge, determining whether or not my adopted child really is fairly adopted. They would have to look at American law regarding adoption to determine whether or not I am in fact the rightful father of this adopted child, or I am indeed divorced from my spouse in the United States, because they would look at American law in a Korean court, they would look at an American court law in order to determine whether or not I'm married or divorced according to American law. If that came up for some reason, like I wanted to get married here in Korea, but there was some dispute about whether or not I was really divorced from my first wife, that's private international law, right? But public international law, and of course, private international law is important for international economic relations, right? For international economic relations, that's really important for private international law is very important, right? But public international law is the law between states, state officials, so state representatives. Okay, so then let me ask you to vote one more time here in the time remaining. So we go back to go back to Zoom here, and we go back to share the screen. Back to well, I have to open up the Cyber Campus again. So we go to Cyber Campus here, and then create another debate topic. So like this, and then go back to Zoom and go here, and then we go share here, share that, and then you can see what I'm sharing, share, and you can see, so now I vote, create another vote file here, go to week 9 here, like that, and then publishing date is now, so we go say 12 o'clock here, and away here, make this 12 o'clock. And then here, make it anonymous, so strongly pro, neutral cannot decide, con, and strongly con. And ask you to vote one more time, so anonymously. So vote anonymously now. And you can see the results. One con. And two con. And that's it for today. Okay. So I will look at your midterms tomorrow. Thank you.
Professor,
Yeah.
I'm not participating in next Wednesday class because I must have to participate in the reserve military training.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Remind me if I forget. Okay.
Also to Lee Jong-un has also too, maybe.
Okay. Please remind me. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.